Hello, my merciful brothers and sisters. It is I, MisterMercy. When you're playing Overwatch or some other competitive multiplayer games and you hear something like this...
Have you got any kills? No. Shut the fuck up.
Is your name Widow? Is your name Widow, you fucking faggot? No.
Don't fucking point fingers when you haven't
Shut
got
the
any kills either,
fuck
you
up,
fucking
you're so bad,
fucking
kid.
weed! You smell like a fucking...
Why getting mad? Why getting mad?
Or this.
Where's Mercy? Mercy, where were you, man? We just lost because you were AFK. Okay, fuck.
Dude, you're fucking just right AFK! Or perhaps this.
You're fucking illegal and you shouldn't be in the United States. Move the fuck out!
Yeah,
Go back to your fucking own country, you fucking brown piece of shit.
Do you get nervous? Do your palms start to sweat and does your heart race? Do you worry about the person on the receiving end of that abuse if that person isn't you? Do you worry that they're just one rude comment away from gaining the courage to kill themselves in real life? Then you're probably a sensitive player. You might feel like other gamers don't get you and why you find it so hard to enjoy the game when people are flaming. Don't worry, I've been there too. Overwatch was the first game I ever really played competitively. I mean, technically I was part of a bowling league when I was younger, but once my parents and I found out how competitive it actually was, I bailed on that. I wasn't really used to this kind of hostile environment and something that was supposed to be fun. Toxicity in competitive Overwatch made me just hate playing more and more until eventually in Season 5, I gave up. I threw the last 5 of my placements and didn't care where I placed or who I screwed over in the process, vowing to never queue for competitive ever again. Because I was just tired of dealing with everyone else's bad attitudes and feeling the way I just described earlier. But then Season 6 rolled around, and I made myself a promise that I was going to play this season and enjoy myself, come hell or high water. And my techniques so far have worked. Granted, it's still very early on in Season 6, so the toxicity could get worse than just from what I've experienced, but I have experienced a little bit of toxicity this season and managed to overcome it, so that's why I wanted to make this video and share 5 tips on how to enjoy competitive as a sensitive player. Now, this isn't going to be some bro dude advice like quit being a pussy or be toxic back, because I understand how difficult it can be to enjoy comp like this, so I plan to handle this with respect. So tip number 1, don't try to be Superman. It is very noble and kind of you to worry about those on the receiving end of toxicity, and I can understand how stressful it is to fear that the said person on the other end isn't emotionally stable enough to handle such vileness. But it's important to recognize that this is often just overreacting. The odds of someone on the other end of toxicity not being able to handle it are extremely low. But if you're still worried about someone who you feel is getting bullied, show them some kindness during or after the match. Like, send them a private whisper or message saying something along the lines of, hey, sorry those other guys were bullying you. Don't let it bother you too much. They're just too invested in a video game. And it's also important to remember to not directly antagonize the toxic people in an attempt to save someone you worry is meek and defenseless, as that'll just make the toxicity grow and just get redirected back at you, which isn't fun for them or you or really anybody on the team. So tip number 2. Don't avoid joining comms. Now, I know that a lot of you out there, like me, have at least at one point or another figured the way to combat toxicity is just to not communicate whatsoever. Stay out of voice chat, mute everyone in text chat, and just focus on the game. Sure, that's a solution. You can take care of the toxicity that way, if you really don't care about winning at all and just want everyone to think you're the toxic one. Because I have tried this myself, and I guarantee you that you will lose more games than you win. No matter how hard you think you can carry, no matter how good you think you are at reading the battlefield and expressing yourself through other means to the team to get the job done, like using ultimates, for example, to initiate a push, your team just won't be on the same page as you 95% of the time. And also, when you don't join comms, you more than likely look like a toxic thrower to the rest of your team, even if you aren't. Which can breed toxicity in and of itself, and you won't even know that's the problem, and that's why your team is performing so terribly. Not to mention all the wonderful and funny people you won't get to meet if you never join voice comms. I mean, I've had 2 really great 6 stacks with just random premates and solo queuers this season, who were all supportive, worked well together, and we all made each other laugh. And we won a lot of games because of that too. Just think of how many games I probably would have lost by not meeting these people in the voice chat. And sure, you'll encounter toxic players every now and then, but if you follow the tips in this video, then you'll probably be fine and get to meet some great players along the way. So, tip number 3, GLHF saves. So at the start of every match, I always make it a point to type GLHF in the match chat, so both myself and the enemy team can see it. And if you don't know what this means, this stands for good luck, have fun. And it's supposed to remind players that while we're here to compete against each other, the main goal isn't to win, but to bring our very best to the table and have fun doing it. And there's no hard data to really prove that this really curbs toxicity, but at worst it's merely a good luck charm, and at its best it's an actual flame repellent. Besides, even if people don't take it super seriously and make fun of the phrase when it's said, it usually loosens them up and makes them less stressed, and therefore less likely to be toxic. So tip number 4, know when to take a break. Because humans, by design, are not meant to withstand prolonged stress. If all else fails and toxicity still gets to you, get out of voice chat entirely, finish the match, and take a break. Don't even play more of the same game in a different game mode. Just go and do something else. Watch TV, listen to music, read a book, play a single-player game, something else entirely. In fact, you don't even have to come back to the game for the rest of the day if you don't feel like it. Take as much time as you need to mentally recover from the toxicity you were exposed to. And don't worry about SR, don't worry about decay if you're in one of the higher ranks, because at the end of the day, your mental health is more important than some numbers on a video game, and it's not worth torturing yourself just to make that number go up or to keep it from going down. You don't have to be a slave to the game, because when you've put that toxic incident behind you, you can come back to the game and try again to have fun. Whether you just take a few hours or take the whole rest of the season off, it's fine. Rest is good for the soul, and sometimes you may just need to rest after dealing with assholes enough times before you can truly start to appreciate the game again. And my final tip, tip number 5, stop, report, mute, block, forget. Keep those 5 words in mind. This is probably the most important tip, but I admit it's probably also the hardest one to follow. And it might take some practice and a lot of hurt feelings before you're able to master it as a sensitive player. But you will get there eventually. When you so much as get a hint that someone might become toxic and start flaming, you should stop what you're doing immediately. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a team fight and it gets you killed. Doesn't matter if you have to sit and spawn for 15 seconds to do it. Doesn't matter how much your team think you're throwing or going AFK. You stop playing immediately and report the player. If you aren't up for explaining the report, don't worry, the text box is optional, and I'm sure less sensitive players who also report that person will be willing to take the time to explain that toxic player's behavior more thoroughly. So, reporting always used to feel useless, right? Because punishments were rarely handed out, and even when they were mostly minor compared to the offense. However, with the new beefed-up reporting system that Blizzard is rolling out very soon, you can take comfort in the fact that your reports are being listened to and tallied against toxic players. The email notification system for reports is already live, so at best you'll get an email from Blizzard thanking you for helping to stop a scumbag who is ruining the game for everyone, or at worst, you'll probably just forget about the guy anyway. So after you report them, mute them in both voice and text channel. Then proceed to block them, so you never have to play with them again after the match. Then comes the final and hardest part. Forget about them. I know that as sensitive people, it can be hard for us to let go of that toxicity when we see it because we know it's wrong and it deeply offends us on an emotional level, but it's important to try your absolute damnedest to avoid tilting. Forgetting the toxicity may come with practice, but hopefully knowing that your cry for help from Blizzard is being taken more seriously now, and the fact that with the mute and block they have essentially had their megaphone taken away, it might lessen the blow of their heinous language. But that was really all the tips I had for you guys, and hopefully they can help you enjoy competitive more as a sensitive player. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I'm MisterMercy. Peace, everyone.